Good morning. It is really great to be here. What a great morning session. Great. That's helpful. So in just a little while, we are going to be excused to go to our classes. And in these classes, you're going to learn how to improve your programs, improve your outcomes, manage your volunteers, and hopefully have a greater impact on your communities. So what if I were to tell you I had the secret to do all of that? You'd be pretty excited, right? No, yeah, that's why we're all here. So we are going to talk this morning about adverse childhood experiences and seeing the one and what that can really do for our programs. So ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, they are currently considered the single greatest unaddressed public health threat facing our nation today. In recent years, health and community organizations have begun to closely examine the long-term effects of these experiences, and we're going to spend a little bit of time getting to know what these experiences are. The CDC and the Kaiser Permanente Foundation broke these down into three prominent categories. Now, these categories don't include all types of trauma that a child might undergo, but they broke them down into the most significant forms of trauma. So we've got these three categories. Under abuse, we have physical, emotional, and sexual, neglect, physical and emotional, and then household dysfunction, which includes things like mental illness, incarcerated relatives, a mother being treated violently, substance abuse, and divorce. And the easiest way to think about these ACEs is to think about, my family and I lived in Montana a couple years ago, and we were in rural Montana. We were up in the mountains. And we would go for a walk. And as soon as we would leave the door, and this is not an exaggeration, we would go for a walk, we would actually have to walk around shouting, "Hey, bear." So you'd walk, like not a peaceful walk, right? Like, "Hey, bear," because there was a very high likelihood that a grizzly could actually just wander out of the woods into your path. So I love Montana, but I'm happy to be in Colorado now, where there are no grizzlies. So what would happen if a bear appeared? Besides being just terrified out of my mind, my body would immediately start the stress response, right? Very similar to public speaking. So first, the stress hormones would be released. Cortisol, adrenaline, and these hormones, they tell your body what you need to fight the bear, but they also tell your body what it doesn't need. So things like empathy and understanding. Your blood pressure will raise, right? Because you're getting ready to figure out if you need to fight this bear or flee from the bear. And then also your sugar levels. Let's get those going. Your sugar levels, because your body knows that it needs energy. So what happens when you're in a situation where the bear never leaves the room? Right. What happens when you're in a situation where the bear lives with you in the forms of physical violence or sexual abuse or your mother being treated violently or even certain issues of poverty, survival issues? Your body actually, the stress response that you go through during that time literally exhausts your body over time. And it has profound effects. So the greater number, you can look up here, the greater number of adverse childhood experiences that someone has gone through, the greater their risk for, honestly, this total body exhaustion. And this shows itself in a number of ways. We've got behavioral outcomes. Lack of physical activity, smoking, drug use, even poor work performance are long-term effects of going through one or more of these adverse childhood experiences. Your physical and mental health are affected. Severe obesity, depression, suicide attempts, heart disease, even cancer you become an increased risk for cancer when you've gone through 4 or more of these adverse childhood experiences. So it's no wonder that someone who's gone through 6 or more, the lifespan their life is likely to be shortened actually by 20 years. So it's a significant impact. So we've got these 10 areas that have this amazing impact on somebody's life. And a lot of the children that we're working with are living with these things every day. I want to take a moment. I want to get personal. Meet 5-year-old me. This is me. Yes, my hair was darker. That's the first thing everybody notices. By the time I was 12, by the time I would be 12, I will have undergone 9 of these adverse childhood experiences. My mom was a young teen mom when she had my brother and I. My father was a Vietnam vet, and when he returned from the war, he turned to alcoholism. And so he left us when I was 3. My mom remarried. She remarried a very violent and cruel man. He would physically abuse my brother and my mom and I almost daily. He was also a very inappropriate man, and he initiated affection with me in ways that an adult should never initiate affection with a child. So after about 4 years of this daily violence and nightly trauma, my mom found the courage to leave this man. When she left him, she sent my brother and I away with relatives, and we did not see her for the next year. It wasn't only until much later in life that I found out that she was actually homeless during a part of that time. When she rejoined with my brother and I, the stress of raising us, she was trying to get a nursing degree during that time, became so much that the verbal and physical abuse really escalated in the home. Until we had relatives see the effect and intervene and say, listen, you got a choice here, children's services, or we can find their dad. So my dad was contacted, and by this time he was sober. He took in a very troubled preteen and teen. I'm still amazed at him and his wife to this day. By that time, a lot of the effects of the childhood were sort of playing out in my life. And I became very promiscuous. I became very self-destructive. I was depressed. I did cutting and a lot of self-destructive behaviors. And I did very poorly in school. I had no value on education and very few close relationships. And I remember sitting in a health class and them going through, if you're raised this way in this type of family, this will be the outcome for your life. So according to this health class, I was going to end up also as a teen mother and sort of destined to repeat the cycles that were already in my family. And I remember feeling defeated and resigned. This is my life. But it's not my life. So here I am. And I'm happily married. My husband's in this room somewhere. I've got 2 great children. I've got meaningful relationships. I am healthy. I am strong. I am very happy with my work. I'm a productive, successful human being. And the question that comes to my mind is why? As I'm studying this, as I'm looking at our children, why? And it really has to do because of relationships. When I look back through my life, I feel like I can remember every single person who saw me. I remember the high school teacher who pulled me aside and noticed my extremely erratic behavior and said, listen, Carmen, emotions, better friends than leaders. You have got to get your emotions under control. I remember another high school teacher who, even though I think my highest grade was probably a C- or D, she wanted me in her advanced English class because she saw something in me. And I remember she called me effervescent, which is a word that I did not know the meaning of, but I also remember running home to look that up because it impacted me so much. This woman said something positive about me. I remember the 40-year-old African-American woman with the beautiful afro who sat down and studied the Bible with me, different than me in every way, but had the courage to tell me that I was literally destroying my life with my choices, but that I could find hope and even a new life through the Bible. So I look back and I see all of these people, and it makes sense to me. I see the way that they redirected my life. But this is not just my experience. This is science. So as they're doing all of these studies on adverse childhood experiences, they are finding over and over and over again that the one element, the one thing that is present across all successful outcomes are relationships. There may be other things in there, but this is the one constant. So they broke it down into 3 areas: supportive family interactions, caring relationship with friends, and connections in the community. And that is what we are all about. When I think about sending our volunteers out into our communities and people ask me what we have to offer and ask what our strengths are, there are hundreds of organizations doing the practicals of what we do, and even doing it better in a lot of ways. But the thing that we do as disciples is that we see people. We can go and we can hand out the sandwiches and we can deliver the backpacks and we can do all of these little things that may help meet an immediate need or may help support a community. But if we don't take the time to actually see the child in the corner, and it could be the child with that behavior that just drives us nuts. It could be the mom who is always angry, the father who is just silent and sullen. We can do all of the practicals in our programming, but until we stop, and I believe a lot of us are, stopping to see those individuals, our impact will be very little. I'm actually a data person. My role right now with Hope is M&E. So I am all for measuring programs. I am all for designing programs. But honestly, without our ability to look out and see these individuals, none of that really matters. So I've got a little QR code here for you. It'll link you to a website called ACES Connect online. It actually will lead you directly to a video that I'm very fond of. But if you'd like to learn a little bit more about ACES, and if you would like to talk through how can we better see those that we're serving, how can we increase this relational aspect within our programs, I encourage you to reach out to me at the email and we can have a conversation together on how to do this better. So thank you.